Video got interrupted, so this is officially the last one here. Alright, so we ended with Del Duke becoming the building representative and Willow really getting inspired to kind of dive back into landscaping a bit and change the look of the place where they're living right now. Now that we have permission, the plan can be executed. It's Saturday and we're all here except Patty, who has the most customers on the weekend. I asked Kwang Ha how he would suggest we remove the red lava rock, and I secretly am thinking that he would want to get involved in this, but he isn't remotely interested. But apparently he got something out of Tom Sawyer, even if he didn't read it or write a paper on Mark Twain. He only says, give the rock away. People love anything that's free, and that strikes me as accurate. So I go down the hall to discuss the idea with Del, and Sadhu is in the living room. He's a lot nicer to me since I made Del a computer. He has even asked my opinion on a few technical things, and I'm allowed to borrow his 15-watt soldering gun. I explained to Del that my plan is to give away the rock. Sadhu says, list it online. It will be gone before you know it. I post an offering for free red lava landscaping rock. It says if you can haul it, you can have it. Only 7 minutes later, I get my first response. Kwang Ha appears to be right. The idea of something for nothing is appealing in some visceral way. Even if it's free, things are never free. The burden of ownership means everything has a price, and I think that's why really rich and famous people look so weighed down and glum in most photos. They know that they have to keep their guard up. They have things that other people want. I have said that the red rock is on a first-come, first-served basis, and before I know what's going on, I have 4 different people over here fighting over the stuff. The lava rock enthusiasts scare me. Since Del is now the building rep, I make him go down and deal with it. I have no idea what he says, but Mai and I hear all kinds of shouting. The important thing is that in 2 hours all of the rock is gone, and so is the ripped black plastic sheeting underneath. I said that was also free. We all head downstairs, even Kwang Ha wants a look, and we stare at the newly exposed dirt. What remains is only the hard packed ground. It's not even brown, it's a dusty gray. Maybe the construction crew dumped a few leftover bags of concrete on their way out. I guess everyone is thinking the same thing, but Kwang Ha is always the one who gives the unspoken voice. He says, nothing's going to grow here. Patty has just come home from work and she seems more worn out than usual. She stands with us and stares at the big rectangle of nothing. Finally, she adds, it's a bigger looking space when it's not covered with rocks. Del chimes in, and a bigger project than anyone thought. Patty sighs and starts up the stairs. Most things are. I don't want to be crushed, but it's possible that they are talking to me and not the ugly exposed area that is now the centerpiece of the courtyard. Mai puts her hand on my shoulder and says, let's go eat. Everything looks better in the daylight. It looks even worse in the full sun. I go downstairs early and it's only me and the dirt, which I now realize has a gritty top like someone sprinkled coarse sea salt on a gray cracker. Even if I get everyone in this entire complex to join me out here with gardening tools, I don't think we could even make it happen. Plus, I've only seen a few other residents, and they don't look like people who would want to swing a pickaxe. Regular soil is a crazy mix of everything from fine rock fragments to water, air, insects, even bacteria and fungi, but it's all necessary. I remember the first time I looked under the microscope at a pinch of dirt from my own backyard. It was a shocker. Now, as I think about this open space, I know what has to be done. Deep tilling of the soil isn't a good idea unless you are facing the kind of ground that we have here in the gardens of Glenwood. But this situation calls for heavy machinery. We have to rent a rototiller. I can't do this myself for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is you have to be 18 years old to even legally operate the equipment. I go back upstairs, and when Mai wakes up, I explain the situation. She doesn't look like she has any idea of what I'm talking about, even when I clarify that the rototiller is a machine with sharp blades that mechanically chop soil. But she understands something because she says, so we need an adult, a credit card, and a car. Del wants no part of this. Mai has done most of the talking, but it's the residents from Unit 11 who make the difference. A guy named Otto Sayas, I would give anything to have a name that was a palindrome, knocks on the door. He wants to know what is happening with the big dirt patch in the courtyard. Otto Sayas doesn't look very happy because his unit opens right up to the future garden site. I'm guessing that his attitude that he didn't have a problem with the patch of red lava rock and weeds. Del has to talk to the guy because he's the building rep, and I hear him explain, it's all going to be planted. You'll see, we are right in the middle of the project. I catch a sight of Adosaya saying, and he is still scowling, and he barks, "Nothing in the world is going to grow there." And then the magical part happens, because Del sort of puffs up and says, "You just wait and see." A rototiller is like a jackhammer, but for dirt, and we get one. Kwang Ha doesn't come up to Sam's U-Rent on Saturday because he's going bowling. I had no idea he was a bowler, but maybe that's how it is with bowling. You do it and then you leave it behind. I think Del would have liked to go bowling instead of going to Sam's U-Rent, but he agreed to do this. The machinery rent requires real upper body strength to operate, especially when it's attacking the hard ground, so only Del can use it. Del's pretty doughy around the middle, but his large stomach vibrates as if he's been put in a can and shaken at the paint store in one of those mixing machines. But the good news is that the solid ground really gets pulverized. The bad news is that Del is probably going to be too sore to walk for a week. I investigate the newly tilled soil downstairs in the future garden, and at dinner I share the good news. I tested the soil, and it's neutral. The pH is a perfect 7. Look at that, guys, 7. Mai, Patty, and Del look up from their food. Kwang Ha keeps shoveling with his fork. Plants, like people, thrive when there's balance. So when the soil is too acidic, which can be thought of as sour, you should lower the pH factor. You can do this by adding lime. When the soil is too alkaline, which can be thought of as being too sweet, you need to add sulfur. I explain this, but I can tell that it's not a spellbinding discussion for the people I live with. Del says, "Do you taste the soil to find out?" I can't tell whether Del means this as a joke or not, but it causes Kwang Ha to laugh. And I realize that whenever he laughs, it's some sort of relief. It's like a dam bursting. Patty says, "That's great, Willow." Kwang Ha then mutters, "What's really being measured are the ions of hydrogen." He seems as surprised as I am at his own statement. He puts more spicy sauce on his pork and then looks guilty, as if learning something in science class was a crime. The table was silent. And then Mai says, "And 7 is your favorite number, Willow." I don't explain that I don't count by 7s anymore, but I still do appreciate the beauty of the number. I'm thinking that everyone will get more involved tomorrow when we do the planting, and I'm really looking forward to that. We wake up to a dust bowl the next morning. I've never seen such a filth. The walls and the windows of the first floor units are covered with a layer of newly ground dirt. I go downstairs and I stare. It's as if a grime tornado has hit the place. After I show Del, he limps into the garage and yanks down the building rep parking sign. He doesn't want anyone to know where he lives. Del is so sore from the rototiller experience that he can barely move. Or maybe he's just upset about the dirt damage from the rototiller. He wraps himself in a blanket and lies down on the floor of his apartment and closes his eyes. He looks like a mummy. I want to take a picture, but I decide that's not appropriate. Mai has a plan. She puts up a large sign downstairs and it says, "Construction project underway. Apologies for the inconvenience." I feel like we should tell Del what we're up to, but Mai says to leave him alone. Mai then gets her mother to drive Del's car to Sam's U-Rent, where we return the rototiller and we now rent a power sprayer. Mai and Del have different approaches to everything in life. Mai is an ultimate pragmatist. That means she is positive Polly. Maybe she gets that from her mother. Power sprayers are powerful, hence the name. I haven't been around one until now, and so this is all new to me. We get back to the gardens of Glenwood, and Mai goes upstairs and puts on her new used raincoat. She bought a designer jacket when I got my running shoes, and I thought it was a waste of money, and now I wish I had one. Kwang Ha comes downstairs and we were just about to get started. Maybe because the rental equipment resembles a machine gun? I don't know, but he looks interested. Kwang Ha wants to try pressure spraying. He fires up the engine and it's as if he's holding an Uzi. The force of the water takes a lot of strength to control and a river of grime falls. I watch from a distance and it takes some time before I realize something else is happening besides the cleanup. The pink paint underneath the dirt is also being removed. And so is the bumpy stucco coating. This is all demonstrating the theory of connectedness, not mathematically speaking, but in a real-world way. Removing the red lava rock and the black plastic liner exposed the hard-packed dirt. Once that was tilled and the wind whipped a portion of it onto the walls, the power sprayer was brought in, and it started to take off the deeply colored pink paint, as well as the grime. What's underneath is a soft, natural gray. Now we have to power spray the whole place to make it match, or else repaint the building. Connectedness. One thing leads to another, often in unexpected ways. We rotate. If the sprayer is on the lowest setting, I can't even manage. Kwang Ha does a huge section, pretending I believe that it's a video game, and then I take my turn, but my productivity is lousy. It's such a struggle for me to control the nozzle, and I can barely move. I am the littlest one, but I give it everything I have, I really do. We have to be very careful because the filthy water runs down the windows, so after I wash the area, we then need to go clean the glass, but we can't do that with the power sprayer. We're all now working, even Dal, when Hario's taxi pulls up. I see him and Patty talking for a while at the curb. Somehow it doesn't seem strange to me that his whole back seat just happens to be filled with rags and 3 of those squeegee things. Hario finds an extension ladder in the carport and he takes over the window issues. It's dark and we're still at it. Even Kwang Ha hasn't given up. We take turns sitting on plastic milk crates and aiming the flashlight beams up at the building. A man comes out and we think he's going to yell at us, but he's friendly and he gives us each peppermint candy. He even donates a poinsettia for the garden, which we're ready to plant. He's had it for almost a year and he can't believe it. He's kept it alive. We have finished the interior courtyard walls, but now we've been working our way around the outside of the building. There's a pink-brown stream of stucco bits that flows wherever the area is sprayed. Hario has been washing windows for hours. Kwang Ha takes control as most valuable player of apartment complex spraying. As it gets really late, Del retrieves one of his old lawn chairs from the second-floor balcony, and he starts to relax, or maybe the muscle pain relievers Patty gave him start to kick in. People now think the garden is a good idea, and it's possible they're just thrilled to have their windows washed. The sky is filled with stars, more stars than I ever remember seeing, and I've spent a lot of time at night with my head tilted back analyzing constellations. Kwang Ha has done more laughing in the last 10 hours than I have seen in the last 10 weeks. I don't understand until recently that emotions could be so contagious. So I now know why comedians are important in culture. It's after 3 in the morning. Hario is gone. Patty went to bed after he left. Mai can't seem to stop herself from pushing the runoff water away from the building with a broom. Del is outside, but he's been sleeping in a lawn chair for an hour. He got cold and climbed into a black plastic garbage bag. He punched his feet through the bottoms, and now he reminds me of a talking raisin I once saw on TV. A guy in the apartment across the street told us to turn off the machine a few hours ago, but Kwang Ha ignored him. Finally, Kwang Ha gives us a signal and Mai kills the motor. She and Kwang Ha and I stand back and point our flashlights to see what we've done. Layers have been removed of dirt. Del pulled into the parking lot, and there wasn't a place for him the next morning for his car, for his always now sore from exercising body. After circling the lot in frustration, he lined up in front of the only spot available that he could find. It was a tiny, crowded on one side of the school district van, and on the other side a chain-link fence that wrapped around the property. Del stepped on the gas, intent on inching slowly ahead, but instead his foot slipped. Every hair on his body stood on end at the sound of metal hitting metal as the fence post dug a crease into the side of his vehicle. Del cut the engine and swore and pounded his fist. He found himself thinking of Willow. She would have told him that he went forward in the space that was too small. She would have calculated the mass or the distance or figured out something. Del pushed the thought of the girl out of his mind and he opened the door. He was faced with another reality. Even though he had taken out most of the fence on the passenger side, he was close to the van next to him, and he doubted he could get out of his car. Del gritted his teeth and got his left leg out and then his hip out, but his tummy, even angled and sucked in, was a real problem. Hoping for the best, he let his belly go and pushed it in the direction, and the edge of the car door swung straight into the side of the neighboring van. Another metal-on-metal sound. But he made his way through the rows of cars, and the dark mass leaped from behind a tire and slithered right across his wobbly legs. And that's when he got a close-up look at the creature formerly known as Cheddar. The cat was thin and mangy, with one hairless ear and a chunk missing from his now crooked tail. The animal that was more scared and dirty, he was frantic and desperate. Cheddar arched his back in an attempt to appear fierce and showed his spiky teeth and pale green eyes. A chill ran up Del's spine. He adopted Cheddar, and then he'd let the animal fend for himself in a parking lot, and he had not made a single attempt to rescue him. He had to take more responsibility for his actions, and he needed to start with the cat. Dell dropped Cheddar off at the vet on Central Avenue with instructions for a flea bath and a full exam. He'd pick up the animal at the end of the day, and then he'd return to the school offices in time to park on the street and walk 2 blocks. He went straight to the main office and reported the damaged van. It turned out the school district had insurance, and the woman told him not to worry. When Dell went to his office with a spring in his step, maybe it was the running, maybe it was because he lost almost 15 pounds, or maybe it was doing right by Cheddar. For the next 17 days, Dell and I become experts in the green garden trash cans. In our town, trash is separated with blue cans for recycling and green for anything yard. Black is for everything else. My first observation is the green receptacles are not always filled with just cut grass and dead flowers. I found spaghetti in there and all kinds of other objectionable things, some of them beyond creepy. But for the most part, the people in Bakersfield, California are following the rules of rubbish, meaning they're tossing out the garden waste in the right direction, and the stuff is mostly alive. Patty doesn't want any more tubs or containers in the apartment, and she puts her foot down on that. Again, Kwang Ha is the one who has the answer. Take everything up on the roof. No one goes up there. There's a light rain, and someone named S. Godchucks in unit number 21 reports a small leak in the ceiling bathroom. He calls the bank, and they don't notify the building rep, they notify the repairman. Patty and I are in the salon, of course, and I know nothing about this until it's too late. A roofer comes and can't make heads or tails out of the containers or the cuttings that we had put up there to try to grow our plants. To him, they just look like a big mess getting in the way of the area that he needs to tar. So he gets back in touch with the bank, and apparently someone named Chad Dewey says that nothing should be up there. So the workers gather the plants that are growing, or at least trying to grow from roots, and carry them downstairs where they're dropped into a dumpster. I come home to the crime scene. Today the city picked up the trash, and now I have to piece together the sequence of events. When I go to see Dell for counseling the next day, I tell him I can't return to the past. Having a garden in the courtyard will not ever be the same as what it was in my backyard home. And Dell only nods and looks sweaty. I am heartbroken. Later I see Dell hand my envelope when he comes over to dinner. And when I go to bed, I find the note on my pillow. Willow, when they find a place for you, and it will be a great place, and it will be right for you, I know that, I want you to try to take Cheddar with you. I will call Lenore and say the cat is a therapy dog. Yours in friendship, Dell Duke. How did he know I needed a companion? How did he know I needed somebody? 2 days pass since then, and instead of taking the bus home from the nail salon, I go to the South Side Nursery. I find Henry, and I explain about the sunflowers and losing my clippings, and I ask for advice. He has to go to the back because a truck is delivering something. I wait. There are cartons of ladybugs for sale on the counter, and I decide to buy one. They're usually burnt orange, but as I peer through the mesh in the covered container, the little bugs moving around the curls of the wood look bright red. I know what Patty would say. She would say lucky. And she would be right, because only a few minutes later, Henry comes back and says he's going to help me. He'll stop by after work. I feel relieved, which is strange. I walk back to the gardens of Glenwood, and I try to move in a very careful way because I don't want to jiggle the ladybugs. When I come through the door, Kwang Ha is on the couch. Did you bring home food? I say I brought home insects, but I smile. I don't even realize until I catch sight of myself in the mirror. I look different when I smile. Maybe everybody does. Alright guys, I'm actually going to stop here, and we'll finish the book tomorrow. We're so close to being done. Tomorrow we'll finish the book.